Hello everyone, my name is Becky, someone who's been affected by the current world situation and the fact that she has way too much free time now. I mostly spend my days just sitting in my room, doing university work and then drawing a little, mostly playing video games on my off time. And one of the traps that I fall into is the cash cow known as the Sims franchise. While playing this game, I couldn't shake the idea of a farm expansion pack. I know that I'm not the first one who came up with this idea. From what I've seen for a long time now, the Sims community really wanted farm packs. For the moment, let's just dream about it and make a little imagination exercise. Also, a bit of a disclaimer. I have no experience in the video game industry, so all these ideas are purely for fun and not with the thought of budget or time constraint in mind. So first of all, I wanted to set 2 rules for myself. Rule number 1, a farm pack shouldn't just feel like a watered down version of farm games like Harvest Moon or Stardew Valley. So I decided to mainly focus on animals and what could be done with them, because Sim has already done a few things with gardening already, and I feel just adding some new plants wouldn't really be fun. Second rule, I would want for a farm pack to not just exist in its own little world. Instead, I want to include a few features that will cross with other packs. Here it is important that it doesn't feel like you need to have all the other extensions for the full experience, so they need to act like little bonuses instead. This is also the reason why I don't want to do much with plants, as the season pack, for example, would heavily influence that part, with winter and all. With that being said, I don't own all the packs, so if you have a few different ideas for extensions, then feel free to suggest them. Well, where to start with my idea for a new pack? Well, let's try at the beginning. Imagine you're a player and you just installed a new pack. First of all, you try on all the new hairstyles and clothes for your sim, like flannel shirts and cowboy hats. You know what? I'm not really feeling this aesthetic. It just looks a tad too generic for me. How about we try something else? Like the Alpine Mountains, for example. When I think of the Alps, I always think about those luscious green pastures with cows and goats, and yeah, I think this could work. Oh, and before we go on, I would like to say that the images that I'll be showing, I've made those with no specific country in mind, just the Alpine region in general. The new town will have a few lots, including an empty farm lot, a rival's farm, an animal breeder, a marketplace, and other typical town lots like houses and parks. Before the player can really interact with any of the other lots, they are most likely encouraged to settle into the empty farm lot. In theory, you can turn any lot that you own into a farm. This of course excludes apartments, but the farm lot of the expansion pack will be the biggest lot in the game to accommodate for the animals. Your new farm will consist of an old, small house with cheap furniture and 2 small stables. At first, the player might be a little overwhelmed with what to do, but it shouldn't take long for the welcoming committee to arrive, as they do every time your sim moves into a new house. The welcoming committee will consist of an animal seller/breeder, a food seller, and whatever other people are currently in the neighborhood. During this committee, you'll have the chance to talk to people with specific occupations who will give you advice on how to run your farm. For example, you have some dialogue options with the animal breeder, let's just call them Bree for short, where you can ask them about animals. If you ask the food vendor for their career, they'll inform you of their occupation and advise you to try it out yourself at the farmer's market on Saturday. For those who don't like this option of dialogue tutorials, there would also be a farmer's aspiration, which would also serve as a tutorial. After this committee, the player should be encouraged to visit Bree. Their lot will be the place where you can buy and edit your farm animals. There are a couple of animals that I'd like to see in a farm expansion pack, including horses. I haven't played the 3rd game, but I feel absolutely cheated that they aren't included yet. I mean, even the Sims FreePlay for your mobile, which is not a good game, but even they have horses. With an adult horse, the player can have their sim ride them. This will of course be a new skill that can be learned. You can participate in 3 kinds of competitions with them. Racing, seems self-explanatory. Hurdling. This will be unlocked when your sim's riding skill is high enough. And vaulting. This should be the most difficult as it will require a high skill level and a high friendship with the horse. Next animals are chicken. Chicken will be the cheapest animals and most likely the ones that you start out with. Of course, they lay eggs. They're chicken. You can also buy roosters, because what is a picture book farm without a rooster waking a sim in the morning? Another animal I'd like to see are cows. Cows, of course, produce milk, which can be turned to cheese at a, let's call it a cheese station. I haven't quite figured out the details on that one yet. But like, what's the point in making milk when you can't make cheese? Another animal will be sheep. They will, of course, produce wool and milk, but not as much milk as cows. And lastly, goats. I feel like a picture book farm wouldn't be complete without them, but I'm not sure what benefits they could give you that cows don't already have, because goats also produce milk. Maybe something for kids, because like kids like petting, feeding goats. Let's workshop that. All of these animals should come with at least a handful of different breeds. As a little side idea, I think it would be neat if Bree would give you a young chicken for free if they become good friends with your sim. They will also tell you that you can breed and sell animals as well. Your farm animals will not be added to your household bar on the lower screen. That is because you can't control them anyway, and it's also so that you aren't just limited to 7 animals, because a typical household without cheating can only include 8 sims. I won't include pigs in this pack, as I don't want to go into the topic of meat production. You know, Sims 4 has always been this kind of cutesy, idolized game. Like, even if you go to the vet with your pets, they just have cute sicknesses. So yeah, I think the topic of meat production would definitely be a little bit too harsh for this game. And because I couldn't think of a different purpose for pigs other than truffle hunting, which would be directly ripped from Stardew Valley, I'll just skip them. Once again, maybe a little idea for you guys to think about. As said before, I want to mainly focus on animals. This means that in my thought process, I left gardening on the sidelines. I think this has been explored in other packs before. There are 2 ideas, but I didn't really go deep into detail with them. Maybe your sim can have 1 field to grow crops on. This would open up the possibility of making your own corn maze, which I think sounds neat, but I'm pretty sure this is one of those things that you will only create once and then never again. The other thing that maybe could be fun is giving your sim the option of a vineyard, but because this game is child friendly, you can only produce grape juice with it, so you'll just have to wait for someone's wine mod. As mentioned before, the player starts out with 2 small stables. They look quite old and worn, but can be upgraded in a build and buy mode, and of course they can be customized. This is Sims after all. The main feature will of course be caring for the animals. The Sims can pet and cuddle with them, and each stable would have a food and water trough that you will need to refill every day. Animals can get sick. In that case, a vet will visit the lot to take care of them. This feature can also be turned off in the options. If you had the cats and dogs pack, you could also have the option to make your own medicine with the vet skill. Speaking of cats and dogs, these pets can of course be added as well. The dogs can also be trained to be sheepdogs. Cats, on the other paw, get it, could also be able to hunt for mice in the stables. This will be reducing the risk of sickness and maybe raise the comfort level of the farm animals. If you don't have this pack or don't want cats, which, why wouldn't you want cats? A better stable will reduce the mice problem as well. The higher the comfort level of the animal and the more they like you, the more they will produce. If all of that seems a little too exhausting for you, you can still add a small coop on a normal housing lot and take care of animals as a hobby. And I think this should go without saying, but there should also be some new meals for the produce. Plus, I think that recipes like omelets and mac and cheese should also include eggs and cheese as ingredients. Speaking of produce, my next idea is a farmer's market. As a farmer, you have the option to either sell your produce directly to a company or try out your luck on the market. The farmer's market will take place every Saturday and maybe Wednesday. This should also be something that the player can decide in the options menu. When selling to a company, you'll make less profit, but you'll sell your entire stock. While on the farmer's market, you can set higher prices, but you might have some leftovers. When it's time for the farmer's market, you can either send your sim alone or join them on this event. Also, when you have the Get Famous pack, your reputation could also be a factor in how well your produce sell. The town's market should also serve as more than just a place where you can sell your stock. You could have festivals here like in City Living, maybe a harvest festival or some sort of maypole dance, etc. During those festivals, you are also able to bring a horse for horse riding as a kiddie activity. Once again, coming back to the idea of goats, maybe you could also bring goats for like a petting zoo for the little kids. I think a lively marketplace has the potential to give this pack an idyllic small town vibe that often goes with farm games. The last thing that I think would be neat is if you could set up your market stand in different neighborhoods and different cities, just like the food vendors do. If you make enough money on the farm, you will also be able to hire helpers who will take care of the animals for you or go to the market in your place. Now that your income depends on your farm and its products, it is time to talk about your rival farmer. Let's just call him Val for short. Val lives on the other farm lot in the game. They inherited their ranch from their parents, but times are currently tough. Recently they had to sell a lot of animals and now they're just getting by. They're very ambitious and competitive. So when they hear about a new farmer moving in, it will rub them in the wrong way. You won't meet Val during the welcome committee, but rather see them lurk around your lot during the night. They look to sabotage your farm, but their attempts will be mildly annoying at best. Usually they'll just do petty pranks, like leaving animal residue on your lawn. The worst thing that they might do is let out your animals out of their stable. Of course your sim can go outside and just stop them from doing it, or maybe you can have like a little alarm system. An alarm system might also be useful in the event that Sims 4 might actually include robbers again. If Val succeeds in letting out the animals, then you'll have to get them back into their enclosure. Loose animals can enter your house and create a bit of mayhem. And if they aren't caught in a longer time, then they'll run away. Val can be befriended and even romanced, but their relationship to you will always start out in a negative zone, and it will be more difficult and take some more time to befriend them. And don't you think about just taking a couple of selfies with them until they're good friends. If you are in the red zone, then they will refuse. But once your sim befriended Val, they'll leave your farm alone for good. In the case that Val might die due to mysterious circumstances, a relative of theirs will inherit the farm. This relative is going to be randomly generated so that there will always be a new rival farmer. If you want to get completely rid of Val, then you'd have to remove them by managing households. You can also meet Val in the bar or at the farmer's market. If your sim isn't a farmer, they can also see Val in their neighborhood selling their produce, just like food vendors. The last big idea that I wanted to talk about is a mountain range. You can send your herd of sheep or cows there for a day or a couple of days. If that is the case, then you will be presented with the option to either go up the mountains yourself or hire someone as a shepherd. If you own a dog, then your sim can take their companion along. The mountains should have a tiny river where you can fish and wash yourself, a couple of wild plants, a place for a campfire, and a bush where your sim can sleep, etc. If you own the outdoor expansion, then you can also go camping on the slot. I think this is just a perfect place to set up a tent. When you take your animals on a mountainside for at least 2 days, it will give them a massive comfort and happiness boost. But be aware of mischievous bears and teenagers who might want to scare your herd. Na Brödel, was hast du vor? Na, willst du mit unter die Decke? Bree would then tell you that they can sell you animal farms. Animal farms, yeah. Another animal will be sheep. They will of course produce wool. Produce wool. The vet will visit the lot to take care of them. Ich wusste, dass dieser Satz schwer sein wird.